Today we're going to talk about arrays. Arrays are contiguous blocks of memory that can contain numbers, strings, any type of variable you can create in C#. Here's here's the memory locations that make up an array. They're right beside one another. So this array stores 7 in its first slot. It stores 0 in its second slot, 20 in its third slot, and -1 in its fourth slot. Notice down here these 0, 1, 2, 3, those are called subscripts, and they let us access the different array values. So 0 would be the first variable memory location. 1 would be the second, 2 would be the third, 3 would be the fourth. And right here we have the statement to allocate an array. So right here, this int and then empty brackets, that says allocate an array that contains integers, that is numbers, without the floating point part, the decimal part. The name of the array is A, and it says this equals means allocate this memory. It says new will allocate an array of 4 integers and assign it to this A. Let's try that in Visual Studio just to make it a little clearer. So what we're going to do is go to Open Visual Studio, go to File, New, Project. Click on Visual C# over here. In the middle pane, click Console Application, and we'll just name it Console Application 4, and then click OK. So the first thing we want to do is make sure our console window doesn't close when we run the program. So say console.read line, and then a semicolon, and then run that just to show what it does. We've done it many times before. It opens a console window where your output will go. Hit return or enter. Now we want to create that array. So say int, empty set of brackets, a equals new, we're creating a new array, int, subscript, or empty brackets with a 4 in it. Okay, so we've just created an array. Let's try to assign 7 to the first value in the array. So we'll say a sub 0. It starts at 0, not 1. Say 7. And let's print that out now. Now we can say console.writeLine a sub 0. And let's see what's going to print out. So we'll run it. Oh, it prints out 7, just like we assigned it. 7 here, stores 7. So let's assign something to the second array slot. So we'll say a sub 1 becomes -1. And then right down here, we'll say console.writeLine a sub 1. And this should print out, surprise, -7 and then -1. See, the first write line printed out the first memory location in the array A, which contained 7. And then the second array location in the array contained -1, so it printed out -1. Let's assign some values to the final 2. We used up 2 of them. Now we need to use up the last 2 because there's 4 total. So a sub 2 becomes 20. A sub 3 becomes 10, let's say. Let's print the rest of those out. So console.writeLine a sub 2, console.writeLine a sub 3. So it's going to print out 7, -1, 20, 10. So let's try it. Let's run it. 7, -1, 20, 10. Yep. There's another way to print out arrays that's a little easier, a little less typing. So let's go ahead and delete this for right now. Let's delete these. You can hold down Shift, press down, and it'll highlight these, and then just hit backspace to delete them. But let's do a for loop. Let's do a for loop to print these out. So we'll do for. We have our 2 semicolons, and we have the body of the for loop. So let's see, in the last video we talked about the for loop. The first thing that we put in the for loop is the initialization. So we create a new variable int called index, and we set it to 0 because the array index starts at 0. And then here we want to say is index less than 4. Because see, this index goes from 0 to 3. Once it gets to 4, we want to break out of the for loop because we're done looping. And then we want to say index becomes index plus 1. And inside of here, it's going to loop from 0 up to 3, because when it gets to 4, it's going to break out. So we're going to say console.writeLine a sub index. See, now it's going to, index starts at 0, so it's going to, when it first loops through the loop, it's going to say console.writeLine a sub 0, and it'll print out 7. Then the next time through, it'll increment it to the index to 1, and it'll say write line a sub 1, and it'll print out -1 all the way until it gets to 3. It'll print out the 10, and then it'll loop back up and increment the index to 5 or 4, and it'll check it and say, well, 4 is less than 4. That's not true, so it breaks out of the line. Let's see what this prints out. Yep, and the same thing. 7, -1, 20, 10. Okay, there's one more loop I want to show you that makes life a little easier in C#. Let's close this program down. Okay, I'll print it right down here. Let's print out some console.writeLine. Let's print out some /n to go to the next, give ourselves some space. And then we're going to do a for each loop. So we say for each int I, that's going to be our variable, in a. So what this says, it's going to loop through every element of a, and it's each time through the loop, it's going to take the one of the elements and assign it to, let's call this ind. Or I'm going to call it x. It's going to take, so it'll take the 7 and assign it to x. Then the next time through the loop, it'll take -1 and assign it to the x, and so on until it gets to 10. And then it'll break out of the loop. Let's see what this does. Console.writeLine x. Let's see what this prints out. So it printed out the same thing as the first loop, except there was a lot less typing. So those are arrays, and those are the two loops I wanted to show you.